This is CBC Vancouver News.
And this arrest, this case, very well may result in significant changes to the system.
After nearly 2 weeks on the run, a dangerous sex offender turns himself in, but questions remain about how he escaped in the first place. Plus,
E1 has picked Maple Ridge to build a major lithium-ion battery cell manufacturing facility.
billed as a big boost to BC, including hundreds of new jobs. We look at who stands to benefit most. Also,
all these years later, I was set on a trajectory to be able to think about goals and dreams.
50 years of hindsight for the man who inspired millions. Now Rick Hansen thanks those who inspired him. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We begin with an arrest 10 days in the making. The high-profile search for a high-risk sex offender has come to an end. Randall Hopley was taken into custody voluntarily in Vancouver's downtown east side this morning. He turned himself in just meters from the very halfway house that he walked away from. As our Don Hernandez reports, police don't want him released back into the community.
Police say Randall Hopley waited outside the front doors of this downtown Eastside police station at about 6 a.m. An off-duty officer spotted him. Hopley was arrested. Police later confirmed he turned himself in because he was cold.
We're relieved, and our relief comes with the understanding of the very real fear that people in our community had.
Hopley, a convicted child abductor, was under a long-term supervision order. He was last seen at this halfway house on November 4th, just 1 block away from where he was later arrested. Police say he removed his ankle bracelet to avoid a court date. A Canada-wide warrant was then issued.
His picture was everywhere. His information was everywhere. And we believe that caused him to essentially go to ground and lay low. Ultimately, after 10 days, he likely ran out of options.
Police say tips came in from across the province, but believed he likely stayed in the city.
It took just over 10 days to actually apprehend such an unsophisticated criminal.
Some critics are underwhelmed by the search effort.
You knew that he would be within a certain area. He was not going to travel far. He did not have the means to travel great distances. He did not have the finances, for example, to get out of the lower mainland.
And even bigger concerns linger around exactly how Hopley was able to disappear into the community. He was under strict supervision orders imposed by the parole board and supervised by the correctional service.
We have to determine whether we have the laws in place, the adequacy within our criminal justice system to keep this type of offender in some type of secure facility.
There are important conversations that are happening now about the system that allowed Hopley to live in the community and whether changes need to be made to that system. We will participate in those conversations.
So far, police say there's no evidence to suggest he reoffended while he was missing, and they're urging prosecutors to keep Hopley in custody. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in Maple Ridge today unveiling plans to build a lithium-ion battery cell manufacturing plant that will create 450 jobs for British Columbians.
This means great middle-class jobs, great middle-class careers for years to come, and clean, made-in-Canada batteries for tools used in sectors like construction and healthcare.
And is a partnership between manufacturer E1 Moly and the federal and BC governments. The facility will produce the latest generation of lithium-ion cells, a type of rechargeable battery. They're used to make appliances like vacuums, power tools, garden trimmers, and medical devices.
We have the workforce, we have the energy, we have the path and the leading plan to a low-carbon future, and we are going to continue to lead the way here in British Columbia, regardless of the naysayers.
Upwards of $1 billion has been earmarked to pay for the plant. $80 million of that will come from the province. The BC Chamber of Commerce, meanwhile, says the facility will have benefits beyond Maple Ridge.
We need investments like this to spur innovation and investment to spur our manufacturing sector. And today's news will obviously drive employment in the communities in and around Maple Ridge.
She says what's needed now is a provincial critical mineral strategy to mine the raw materials that power these batteries. A Vancouver-based mining company is selling its steel-making coal business in a series of deals for $9 billion US. Teck Resources is selling 77% of Elk Valley Resources to Swiss company Glencore for $6.9 billion, as well as a 20% stake to Japanese company Nippon Steel Corporation for $1.3 billion. Teck says Glencore will set up a head office in Vancouver in order to keep local jobs here. The filling of the Site C Dam in northern BC has been put on hold for a year. BC Hydro had hoped to start filling the reservoir this fall ahead of the 2024 schedule. But with some critical infrastructure still incomplete, it has decided now to hit pause. Construction is 80% finished, with much of the crucial work said to be in place. Power generation is slated to begin next year with full service by 2025. A landowner in the Cariboo region is on the hook for almost $500,000 for an open burn that ended up starting a wildfire. This happened in April 2019 and was a holdover fire from an open burn the man had started earlier that winter. But the open burn smoldered and roared back to life 2 months later. The owner tried to pin the blame on a neighbor's grandson, but the Forest Appeals Commission rejected that argument. He must now cover all of the costs of fighting and extinguishing the fire. It wound up burning for 2 weeks. The commission said open fires are inherently risky and the responsibility of fully putting them out lies with those who create them. Well, meanwhile, a man who admitted to setting a massive fire that caused millions of dollars in damage in White Rock will not serve any jail time. Today, James Adrian Dyer was handed a conditional sentence of 2 years less a day for the arson. This case goes back to May of 2016. The fire sparked up in a condo that was under construction and quickly spread to surrounding homes and businesses. More than 100 residents ended up being displaced. Dyer pleaded guilty to setting the fire this past June. He'll serve 2 years of probation once his conditional sentence is complete. It has been 2 years since devastating floods tore through the Fraser Valley. At least 5 people died, and there was unimaginable loss of livestock, crops, and farmland. Abbotsford's mayor today says his community is still trying to recover.
Every time it rains, I know there's a lot of people that get quite anxious. It is a resilient community. I have never seen a community come together. I've been so proud of how people have worked together and worked with each other through these challenges.
Community leaders are working on flood risk mitigation, especially given the critical role the valley plays in local food production.
It was really shameful that they had to dump so much milk and so much other commodities that if the roads were open, they could have got them to market. We have to put food production, food transportation, and access to food better define what food security is, because it changes between us that rely on food and rely on farmers, and those farmers that are actually producing the food for us.
The 2021 floods followed that summer's deadly heat dome, and that's causing concern for this season's flood risk this fall after BC's worst fire season on record, paired with drought conditions that are still covering parts of the province. Well, 50 years ago, Rick Hansen began his rehabilitation journey. It followed a devastating car crash that left him with a spinal cord injury. As Karis Hogg tells us today, he's celebrating that journey of recovery back where it all began in Vancouver.
Years before his Man in Motion World Tour in 1985, Rick Hansen arrived here at GF Strong Rehabilitation Center following a devastating car crash. That was half a century ago.
It's hard to believe that 50 years ago, it was a 16-year-old patient just being admitted here, and I was scared out of my mind.
At the center on Tuesday, Hansen spoke of all the people who inspired him, including his physiotherapist, Avril Corbett, who encouraged him to believe in himself.
Avril, you are an amazing difference maker.
Thank you.
You had a profound impact on my life, and I am so grateful for all that you did to help me move forward.
My pleasure.
And through Hansen's life, the inspiration spread. Jocelyn Maffin with spinal cord injury BC has been using a wheelchair since she was 9 and says seeing Rick Hansen return from his Man in Motion World Tour was life-changing for her.
It was a motivating factor in my upbringing and independence, and realizing that people with disabilities like mine could truly do just about anything.
Dr. Brian Kwan, a spine surgeon at VGH, dedicated his PhD thesis to Rick Hansen. He says Hansen brings people together to advance spinal cord research.
I think that he's had an enormous, role in actually concentrating this interest and this expertise here in Vancouver.
Kwan says people in BC get some of the best spinal cord care in the world because of what the Rick Hansen Foundation has done. Hansen himself says this ceremony was about shining a light on the rehabilitation community, which often gets overlooked. But it doesn't end here.
And also to still continue to set the bar higher, to move forward, to make things better for British Columbians, and to be an example for the world.
Karis Hogg, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, most of us have never used a Canadian currency that didn't have the portrait of Queen Elizabeth on it, but that's about to change. This is the Mint introducing the first Canadian coins featuring the face of King Charles. They were unveiled in Winnipeg today on the King's 75th birthday. The portrait is the work of Canadian artist Stephen Rosati. A small number of coins will start circulating right away, with more coming next year. Older coins with the Queen's likeness are still good. We set out to ask Vancouverites how they feel about the change.
I think it's representative of, of the monarchy that is still present in our Canadian society. That being said, that is a whole issue on its own.
So King Charles is the best, and I'll be the one who buys it.
I couldn't give a damn. It matters nothing to me. It can be my face, your face. No, if it is my face, it will matter. But if it is your face or her face or his face, what the hell do I care?
Well, would you rather there's anything else on our money besides the monarchy?
I could say Tim Hortons or hockey, but nah.
I think we should put something different on there. Our country's based on this patriarchy of kings and queens. We need to get modern and just move to something new.
I wonder why that's the choice that we made, and not taken this opportunity to put people who are Canadian, maybe Indigenous people who are actually people who we colonized.
One of the biggest stories on social media in BC in the past 2 days has been about a game show. The Price is Right gives contestants the chance to travel the world, but the city they offered up in Metro Vancouver on Monday may not be the one you'd think. Our Justin McElroy has more on a win and then arguably a loss.
Sometimes it's a new car, and sometimes it's, well,
an amazing trip to beautiful Canada!
Now, the photo showed Stanley Park, which should make you think Vancouver, but the final destination, much like Plinko, can send you in unexpected directions.
Los Angeles to Vancouver, Canada, and then to New Westminster, British Columbia in your bubble car.
Yes, not the big city, but the Royal City, the region's first capital city, the 10th biggest municipality in Metro Vancouver, New Westminster. A decision by Price is Right producers that even surprised the hotel in question.
Of course, at first I thought, this isn't real.
Turns out Price is Right producers emailed the Inn, asking if they'd be up for the prize, joining a somewhat random list of municipalities across the province that have been showcased on the venerable game show in recent years.
Somehow, we got it.
And while the predictable jokes ensued about the seeming bait and switch, the mayor is taking it with ease.
If you're going to stay in Vancouver for vacation, you're going to stay in Greater Vancouver for vacation, stay right in the heart of Greater Vancouver.
Which, for a tourist, could have plenty of advantages.
New Westminster is in the center of really everything. We are 30 minutes from the border, the airport, the ferry, downtown Vancouver.
New West is an old town, a proud town, but whatever you do, don't call it a suburban town.
I'm going to correct you on suburb. This is the center of the Lower Mainland. This was the first downtown. So this used to be the Golden Mile. And one of our western suburbs got a little uppity, and they've sort of taken over some of the brand naming. But no, this is still the heart of Greater Vancouver area.
The one that a certain game show contestant won't be visiting.
What? That's it? That's way less than I thought it was going to be.
But the question remains, why? Why New Westminster? Why did a Price is Right producer think that someone should come here? It's a question that will remain unanswered, like why the Yodeler goes all the way up the mountain knowing they will fall, or why New Westminster decided to have the world's largest tin soldier. All we can say for sure is for one day this city was happy for people to come on down. Justin McElroy, CBC News, New Westminster.
Well, coming up, it may have been a fleeting comment, but some Vancouverites are parsing the words of the NBA commissioner who's floated the idea of returning basketball to the city. We'll hear what you think coming up next. Thank you for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream. A Newfoundland couple is making their dreams of family-style dining with a restaurant in the heart of St. John's. The pair says they're forging their own path by using high-quality ingredients in new ways. Take a look.
Your restaurant has just been named one of Canada's new best restaurants by Air Canada. How does that feel?
It's super cool. It's great. Like, it's more than I think we thought going into it, like opening. Like, it was never like a set goal to be like, we need to be on lists, we need to do this. It's like, let's open a fun restaurant that people feel very welcomed, taken care of.
Food we want to eat.
Yeah, it's like the neighborhood spot that never was, now is.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a great team. Like, and without them, we wouldn't have been able to do any of this.
Yeah, none of this.
We just wanted to, you know, create a space that people felt comfortable in, where they felt taken care of, which, you know, our staff is pretty good at.
Yeah, they're great.
We wanted to focus a lot on using all the local produce that we could.
COVID put like such a killjoy on going out and eating. Like, your menu is on a QR code.
Yeah.
Everyone's on their phones, and it's like no one is actually dining or enjoying the company they're with anymore. So in my mind, that was like, okay,
we can do
let's do this. Like, we have a table over there where it's just a big square, and we leave it open for walk-ins, and more times than not, the people that sit there are friends by the end of the night. They're conversating.
People are like sharing bottles of wine and stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah. So that
I
was.
just wish I could be doing that.
Yeah. That was the thing. Like, let's bring back like actually dining.
Yeah.
Again,
But I was
and,
nervous
like,
about how people would receive
that.
it. Yeah. But it's been great.
You guys are not just business partners, but you're partners in, I guess this is not fake life, but
we are? No, I'm sure.
In real life. How do you separate, you know, not bringing like whatever is going on into the business outside?
Oh my God.
We don't always, like, it's not always easy.
It's not always
Like,
easy. It's hard enough working with your partner, but running a business with your partner and working directly across from them all day long, because like literally he's on one side and I'm on the other side of the counter over there all day long. It's not necessarily the easiest thing.
No,
but
more times than not, it's harder than easy.
Yeah, but
let's be honest.
We make it work,
Of
and
course.
we don't always like. We have, you know.
It's very hard, like, you know, we're at work, but then even when we're not at work, there's always something we see or talk about or need.
Or I have to remind
to
him.
happen, or I need reminding, or we have to run to get this, or we have to go and do that. So
Yeah.
a lot of our days get eaten up with just running around for the restaurant. So making like a very conscious effort of like, let's go walk around the lake,
Yeah.
or let's go do something that has nothing to do with the restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's actually just like time for us helps.
We're getting better at it.
Welcome back. The jury started hearing closing arguments today at the trial of the man accused of killing 4 members of a Muslim family in London, Ontario in 2021. 22-year-old Nathaniel Veltman has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder, as well as terror-related charges. But as the CBC's Thomas Dagla reports, his lawyers say the attack warrants lesser charges.
For members of the Muslim community who came to court Tuesday, it's been a long 2.5-year wait for this moment, the final chapter in the murder-terror trial of the man who ran over the Afzal family with his truck in London, Ontario.
Hearing gruesome details has been very difficult. Seeing the family, hearing these things firsthand has also been very difficult, and we've been trying to support them as much as we can.
In closing arguments to the jury, the defense presented 22-year-old Nathaniel Veltman as a troubled young man, his lawyers insisting that confession to police he made hours after the attack should not be taken as an admission of guilt.
It was terrorism. I'm not gonna try to get a lighter sentence by saying it was just murder, not terrorism.
The defense says at that time, Veltman was still in a drug-fueled haze and dealing with several mental disorders. Nate Veltman had no time to deliberate the killings of the Afzal family, lawyer Christopher Hicks told the jury, suggesting they consider lesser charges of manslaughter or second-degree murder.
The penalties are a little bit different in terms of parole eligibility for second-degree murder, and there's more flexible sentencing for a manslaughter charge.
In court, the Crown called Veltman a terrorist, saying with the attack, the accused intended to send this message to Muslims: leave this country or you and your loved ones could be next. Prosecutors again showed the jury pictures from the crash site with a road sign flattened as Veltman drove full throttle.
Veltman doesn't dispute he deliberately ran over the Afzals with his truck. It will be up to the jury to decide what charges he's guilty of based on the evidence. The judge will first have to instruct the jury on how to come to a verdict. Thomas Dagla, CBC News, Toronto.
NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has thrown basketball fans in this city into a bit of a frenzy. He made comments yesterday that hinted at the potential for a Vancouver team down the line. We hit the streets for a reaction.
What do you think of Vancouver maybe coming back with a franchise of the NBA?
I heard them talking about that last night. That'd be fantastic. If this restaurant is any indication of this, like the energy there is for basketball in this city, then I think it bodes very well for Vancouver.
The NBA is speculating to come back to Vancouver. What do you think about that?
I think that'd be fantastic.
I had a season's ticket before when the Grizzlies were here, so that would be awesome.
I would rather it come back to Seattle because I'm from Seattle, but it would be exciting once Seattle gets a team to have basketball in both cities.
You know, just like hockey and other games, like, you know, we should have basketball team. Like, there's lots of people like basketball here. I know that. I have lots of friends, you know, hanging around. They talk about NBA teams, you know.
Here is a live shot up Cambie Street with City Hall in the background. And a break between systems means more breaks of blue sky. Darius Madavi will be here with your 5-day forecast straight ahead.
Just a typical winter storm in the city. A little liquid overflow here and there. A few stalled cars and flooded basements. And today, it was more of the same, an added aggravation on the way to work. But some folks don't mind.
The sunshine, it goes by slow because you can't wait to get off and get out there, right? You know, these days, you know, you're not really worried about the time. It's just going to rain and it's going to be cold anyways. Nothing you can do about it, so you might as well just enjoy it.
Yeah, we don't mind the rain at all. We do it in all weather. We've seen it all here. We've walked through the seawall and floods and all the rest of it, and it's always great.
My body likes a little bit, you know, change. Yeah.
So you don't
I don't like it's very hot.
The squirrels don't seem to mind either. Of course, they're waterproof, and getting fed is more important than staying dry. And playing golf for some is a must. even on a day like this.
No, it's not going to rain anymore for half an hour. We usually manage to get time in between raindrops.
These two approaching don't look too happy, but looks can be deceiving. Not too many of us get to ride every day in Stanley Park and enjoy all that beauty.
Well, as far as the job goes, I like to think of this as therapy. You know, you can come in to work some days with the weight of the world on your shoulders, and 15 minutes on the trail, and you forget about everything. It's a really good feeling.
As you can see, some people like this stuff. A month ago, I was sitting by the pool in Palm Springs, but now it's November in Vancouver, and here I am on this beach with this crummy umbrella, looking for rainy day people. Bob Gillingham, CBC News.
Rainy day people all know how it hangs on your peace of mind.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Join us for CBC British Columbia's annual Food Bank Day on December 1st. We're making the season kind with a special day of programming, all in support of local food banks across BC. This year, for the first time ever, you can watch our live stream of the day on CBC Gem and at cbc.ca/foodbankday. We'll see you on December 1st.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Let's bring in our Darius Madavi for a look at the forecast. Darius, seems we're kind of in between systems. A few dry days yet, maybe?
Yes, that's what it looks like. Maybe a chance of showers for Vancouver tomorrow. As you can see here, right now we just have a little bit of snow coming to some parts of the province. This is model data, but it is pretty accurate. We are seeing some snow in these, generally these areas right now. And if we take a look, you can see that by tomorrow morning, we have a chance of some showers coming here in Vancouver. Just want to emphasize this is just one model. Some models have Vancouver getting those showers, some don't. We're going to have to wait and see whether they do come in the morning. But regardless, pretty much everywhere says that if they do come, they'll be fairly short-lived and just really light showers popping up across the lower mainland. After that, the next system we have rolls into the northwest, and then we see that snow spread to other parts of the north as well as central BC. And then it does head a little bit further south as well at times, or in some models, although not this one. And then we did see that last system roll through just on the border there, although not sure why that repeated, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, if we take a look at the accumulation, you can see some of that snow building up in the north, especially on the mountain peaks. But generally speaking, for the south, it is going to be a pretty uneventful couple of days. A little bit of buildup of snow in the southeast, especially around Revelstoke and Golden, but not too much precipitation to speak of here on the coast. And again, this is just one model. This is trace rainfall amount. So if they do show up, it'll just be very light showers and may or may not be in those places highlighted there. But if you're on the south coast, expect maybe some showers tomorrow morning and then drying up for the most part. We're also warming up throughout the interior, coming up maybe a couple degrees by Friday on the coast, but most of the warming up happens in the interior as we see temperatures come up a little bit as another cold front passes. And if we take a look at our weather conditions tomorrow, you can see pretty much what we talked about, that chance of snow and flurries happening in the south, although still relatively low. Most of the precipitation happening on the coast and a little bit breaking into central BC. And here in Vancouver, we have a couple dry days ahead, except for those potential showers tomorrow morning. But again, the sun comes out in the afternoon for a fairly nice end of the week before the rain potentially returns this weekend.
We'll enjoy that sun while we have it. Thanks, Darius.
Thanks, Tanya.
And that is your late news for this Tuesday, November 14th. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online at cbc.ca/BC. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.